Oh no! Oh no! Oh no!
Do you remember LEGO Star Wars? You know, the game has set the formula for LEGO games and started the entire LEGO game franchise and the LEGO media franchise overall.
That game turns 20 this year. Yeah, you're old.
Let's see if it wasn't good.
Backlog Journals. We were Lego pirates looking for some pillage. So we figured we'd take
In the 90s and early 2000s, when I grew up, one of the coolest toys were LEGO. And around this time, they really expanded on the universe with a lot of new lines like Rock Raiders and Bionicle. But they also started to do more branded sets, like another really cool thing at the time. LEGO Star Wars. I'm not sure why I was into Star Wars. I had never seen the movies, but I had a children's book based on episode 6. And I really liked the toys, not that I had many. So I thought that LEGO Star Wars was the coolest thing ever. Another thing I started to be interested in around this time was video games. Back then in the late 90s and early 2000s, there were LEGO games. And all of them were quite different from each other, since they hadn't found a unifying identity yet. But I think it's somewhere around here where the LEGO charm started. LEGO Studios, the movie set, games and commercial, LEGO became something goofy, but also cool. I remember that my friend's dad had LEGO chess on his computer. It had this hilarious animation every time you took out one of the pieces. Well, today it might be a bit stiff. And then I got LEGO Races on Nintendo 64. LEGO Races were great and honestly hold up pretty good today. It's a little more bare bones than Mario Kart CTR Diddy Kong Racing, but it's still a good bit fun. You can build your own car and there are bosses with cutscenes, but it's a great example of LEGO charm. And then there came a lot of games I didn't prioritize, like LEGO Island, Rock Raiders, and a bunch of Bionicle games. I thought Bionicle was cool, but when I was in the right age for Bionicle, the only game we had was this web game. But if I was in the right age for LEGO Star Wars when it came out, oh, how I would have loved it. I honestly learned recently that it had a GameCube port. I'm not sure why I didn't get it, but I do remember playing LEGO Star Wars 1 on my friend's Xbox 360. I remember how cool and photorealistic the first game felt. It was like playing the opening of episode 1, but with Legos, and it was really fun in co-op.
But I didn't get any further than the opening demo stage.
LEGO Star Wars was based on the prequel movies.
The game was developed by Traveler's Tales, who previously had worked on a lot of different licensed games before working with LEGO.
And LEGO Star Wars 1 was released for most major consoles in 2005. I wasn't that into gaming anymore around this time, but I remember somehow getting LEGO Star Wars 2 on PSP. And I thought it was pretty awesome. It was based on the original series, who I preferred. I think I still consider myself a Star Wars fan around this time, even if not too big of one. I was probably like 12 or 13. I played it non-stop until I beat it. And I even looked for those special things that helped unlock new characters. And then I kinda left gaming and therefore also LEGO games. So I didn't really see where the LEGO series went. But I saw a few clips from LEGO Batman and really liked the humor. So now, years later, I realized that Google Play Store has a few Android ports of LEGO games, and my eye caught the title LEGO Star Wars TCS. LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga. I hadn't even heard about this game before. It was released 1 year after LEGO Star Wars 2 in 2007 for most current consoles. And it combines LEGO Star Wars 1 and 2, not as a compilation, but a complete game. It also has some bonuses and enhanced graphics. It's almost weird to imagine a time when the Star Wars saga were considered complete. So let's just dive in. I think that the Star Wars logo should be in LEGO, but that's just a nitpick. The special thing with the Complete Saga as a collection is that instead of having a selection screen, it just bounces the two games into one. Both games are available from the same hub world.
Most easily Cantona. You know, the bar from Star Wars Episode 4.
And this was around the time where a lot of kids' games wanted to have all options in the game instead of a menu. So it's the same thing here. And there is some exploration that we'll get to later, but the main point of the game is the level select, which is just a set of doors. So every Star Wars movie has its own door, and you can choose them in any order you like. Every movie is then separated into 6 separate levels,
with their own set of doors and even a separate intro screen.
At this point in time, having the Star Wars music on your thing was still kind of a novelty. And by the way, you can play the entire game in co-op. That's pretty cool. Oh well, I can't, since it's a portable version. But you can if you get some of the other versions. I think most people know how to play a LEGO game at this point, but I thought it would be fun to break down how it actually works. Every level is based on a scene from the movie. Sometimes it's a recreation, and sometimes it tells a story about what the characters we didn't follow did. Like here, this scene, when Padme and a guard do revolt. You always play as 2 characters. And if you play single player, the other one is AI control. But you can switch between them if they're close to each other. So the main levels are a mixture of platforming, combat and puzzles. And the platforming works okay. The jump mechanic, it's a little bit stiff, but it seems like a deliberate choice. It takes a while to understand how to pull it off. The combat is very basic, but quite fun. You have a 1-2-3 combo and a belly flop if you're a Jedi. And auto-aiming as well as a melee attack if you're a soldier. And then the puzzles. They are very hit and miss. Some are easy and mostly just consist of you building something. Because it's a LEGO game. Building stuff is a big part of it. But some puzzles can be very elaborate constructions with you needing to find something to build another thing, to activate a switch, to unlock a character so you can unlock a door. And that takes us to the main mechanic of the game. The character swap. You see, you aren't just 2 characters all the time. Sometimes you are a bunch, and they all have their own abilities and classes. There are 3 main character types in LEGO Star Wars. Jedi, who has swords, Jedi powers, and in LEGO Star Wars 1, they're the only ones who can build stuff. They also have a double jump. Soldiers have guns and can hit enemies. They can also use the grappling hook areas, but jump shorter. Then we have droids, who can't jump or fight, but can open droid doors. The game separates R2-D2 droids from CP3O droids. R2 can at least fly, while CP3O can't really do anything except open doors. There are also a few special characters. Some you can play in the main story, and some just in bonus modes and free play. We have Siths that can use Red Force areas, Bounty Hunters that can fly and use Bounty Hunter doors, Stormtroopers which are soldiers but they can open Stormtrooper doors, and then some specific characters, like young Anakin that can crouch, but he can't attack. And then there are specific variants, like how Chewbacca can drag off arms, or General Grievous have 4 arms and makes his attack slightly different and more brutal. So a big part of the level is to switch characters with different ability to progress. The best way to explain it is probably this level. Here you use the Jedi powers to activate this for R2-D2, so that he can open up a way for Anakin to open up a way for everyone. So how does this work? Well, some puzzles are really fun and smart, and others are well just stupid and annoying and takes a little too long time. But I also need to remind myself constantly that the game is designed to be a co-op game. I mean, everything works in single player, but some puzzles or fights for that matter become way slower, and it's very obvious that everything is designed with co-op in mind. So mediocre but inoffensive combat, clunky but functional platforming and puzzles with a variety of fun to tedious. The sum of the game's parts are very mid. But LEGO Star Wars is an adventure game. So how is the overall adventure? How is it to play through the LEGO Star Wars main campaign from start to finish? Well, as I already touched on, the game has a lot of charm. And a big part of the charm and humor is to see the classical scenes reenacted in LEGO. One of the first things I realized while starting up the game is that the majority of sets and locations in the game is not made out of LEGO, like the actual levels. And the characters and stuff you can interact with are made of LEGO. I get that from a production perspective, but it would definitely be fun to play in a LEGO version of the ships from episode 1 or 4. But the characterizations are very spot on. The game has no dialogue. Instead we have a lot of slapstick versions of classical scenes. And I do love how we, for example, get to see a very clumsy version of young Obi-Wan. Like, this guy is really just a buffoon. He always falls or fails. Or when Leia gives Jabba an angry look for strangling her, he almost looks embarrassed. And my favorite scene, when Darth Vader reveals that he is Luke's father. But the recreation and Legofication is also in the levels. And the best levels are really those that feels like you're playing a Lego version of a scene from the movie. We get to see Lego-fied versions of Jabba's palace and the Rancor fight, the opening of episode 4 when Leia escapes, the infiltration in episode 1, and even the worst parts of episode 2 are here. For some reason, one of the coolest sets in the entire Star Wars franchise, the underwater city from episode 1 and the escape scene with the submarine, it's not here. And some of the levels are a very loose adaptation, while others are exactly like the movies. Like the famous scene where Lando and Leia shoot down all the soldiers, or when Darth Maul throws all his droids at Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. Just like you remember the films. And then we have some of the most memorable recreations. The battles and the starship scenes. And the Jedi battles are the game's boss fights. And those are probably some of the game's biggest highlights. It's pretty fun recreations of some of the coolest scenes from the films. And some of the few parts where you actually feel cool in this game. But the levels aren't only fights. There are also platforming, you need to kill these waves of enemies, and there's even puzzles. The boss fights are probably also the best co-op levels. Like, you need to throw stuff with Jedi powers where the other one protect your character, or save the other one from Sith forces. Sure, it works in single player, but it's probably way more fun in co-op, and it's a little bit tedious in single player. It makes the boss fights take a little too long. And the coolest level is the fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan from episode 3, where you need to survive together while also fighting. It's really cool, but as solo it's a little bit frustrating, since you respawn at the start when you die. And it took me a little too long to realize that I should go here and not on the Lego bricks. So I like the bosses, but some levels are a little too long and have too many wave fights and puzzles, and the actual boss fight is a little too short and easy. The starship levels, on the other hand, they are very hit and miss. Most of the levels are these top-down shooter sections, where you shoot down a bunch of enemies or towers, and then find purple bombs to blow up some kind of transistor. I realized after playing most of the game that this is probably a lot less boring in co-op, since you need 6 bombs and can only carry 3 at a time. Some of the spaceship's levels are instead these 3D levels, who often works the same, but they are a little more interesting auto-scrolling levels. They definitely feel more like 3D recreations of the movie scene. Like, sure, this isometric view of the sequence where Luke is destroying the Death Star from episode 4 resembles the original movie, but the scene where Lando destroys it from episode 6 feels way more cinematic and right. I personally would have preferred to have only 3D levels. And I do remember feeling the same even back then when I played LEGO Star Wars for the first time. So when the game adapts the movies, it does that in a pretty goofy and humorous way, with both the levels and the cutscenes. It's more like the characters are playing Star Wars rather than adapting it. And I don't think you have to do it this way. But here, when they don't speak, I definitely think it's the most fun way to do it. Everything in this game is always Lego, even scenes that are recreated exactly the same, like when Obi-Wan kills Darth Maul, Lego. When they are rejoiced at the end of episode 6, Lego. Or when we see the twist where it's revealed that Palpatine is evil, and he and Count Dooku has this amazingly cartoonish evil laugh. Lego. So overall the game is a pretty fun and enjoyable, but sometimes a little bit too annoying experience across the 6 Star Wars movies, which at the time were all Star Wars movies. And while it works in single player, it's pretty obvious that it was mostly made with co-op in mind, and that's probably the right way to play it. But playing through the adventure is only around 40% of the game. So there's a lot more to LEGO Star Wars than just playing through the main movies. I think this was around maybe 12 hours. As I said earlier, you can explore most easily Cantina. It's not a big hub area. It's bar, the level select rooms, the special station room, and the backyard. But the backyard has a lot of secrets, and the game has a lot of collectibles. Firstly, we have these gold bricks you get from levels. By playing the levels normally, you get enough bricks to build bonus level doors. Then you can get a lot more bricks through objectives, but it didn't stick to see where they lead. The bonus levels are pretty fun. It includes one last level from LEGO Star Wars 1, 2 original levels that were changed in the complete saga, this alternate version of the opening from Star Wars Episode 4, where you play as Darth Vader instead of Leia, and 2 Lego cities, which is just towns built from Lego, where you can wreak havoc and get points, of course. Outside of this, you collect Lego studs to be able to buy more characters and cheats. You also collect these mini-kits, which give you a miniature spaceship that you can look at in a museum. To get them all, you need to replay the levels with different characters. This can be pretty fun, since it means that you can replay the levels in a different style. And since you can change between a big array of characters on the fly, they are way faster to play through. But I'm not the biggest fan of grinding and collectibles. And as a grown man with a lot to do, they feel a little bit too much like work. There is also an arena where you fight waves of enemies and these bounty hunter missions for Jabba the Hutt. And there's probably even a lot of more secrets I don't know how to find. So overall, it's a pretty meaty game that can definitely take over 20 hours to complete if you want to. So is it worth playing this 20-year-old game? I mean, sure. Why not? It's a pretty good casual game to play through slowly. And where there's a lot to do, it's not that hard. You can't even die in levels. But this game is definitely showing its age. And it's more fun in co-op. So if you're interested in playing LEGO Star Wars, I do still recommend one of the co-op versions. Even if the mobile version is also pretty fun to play through. So what happened with LEGO and Star Wars after the complete saga? Well, a lot. LEGO Star Wars became a template for how Travel Tales made their LEGO games. And they made a lot of games. Most of them did resemble LEGO Star Wars for a long time, even if they did spice up the gameplay over the years. We got voice acting and later an open world gameplay. But a few years ago, the formula changed completely. Instead of getting a lot of similar games from different brands, LEGO games got way more creative and way more diverse. Some LEGO games became more indie game-like, Builder's Journey, Bricktales and Voyagers. Those games focus more on telling a story through LEGO bricks and puzzles. The mainline LEGO games also changed. We even got a new LEGO Star Wars game, the Skywalker Saga, which is a cinematic remake of the original game. But it also includes the more recent trilogy, because that also changed. We got a lot more Star Wars movies. And we even have a new Batman game on the way that seems to follow in the footsteps of Skywalker Saga. It has a darker and more action-focused gameplay. And then we have the crossovers, like LEGO 2 Kick Drive and the LEGO levels in Sonic Superstars. So it's safe to say that the LEGO brand is still healthy and happy. And it's probably the same with the Star Wars brand. So with all that has changed over the years, it would be fun to explore some newer LEGO games someday. But I guess that I have still kept my love for the original game, even if the shine have faded slightly throughout the years.